Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Friday morning where we are reckless as can be. And what do you have going? Is that the classic mug with the cartoon characters?
These are flamingos.
It's flamingos, is what you're going with.
This is the baby woke. This is the baby woke up at 3 a.m. So it was eyes closed in the cupboard getting a mug to get coffee.
It's like whatever I can make physical contact with. Yeah,
without carrying the pot around of just pouring it in my own mouth like a gravy boat or something. It was like getting a go.
Yeah, dude. At those days, I remember those days. It's just like whatever works.
Exactly that.
I remember back in the day where like I used to be at Menards and stuff, like the opening shifts, sometimes you had the morning crew and usually your assistants would do it. I didn't mind doing it because early in, early out, but it was at 5 a.m. So when I used to like travel, like when I used to drive into Chicago, like that would mean like getting up at like 3 a.m. to go to work. And yeah, then it's painful times can be had by all. Yeah, I remember that. Here's a guy who has to commute and stuff. Gordo is trying to get as many playing minutes as he can before we loan him out to Texas. So he's what's going on, man?
Not much. I was actually I just got back. I'm trying to get as many skates in as possible. We have like a frozen pond in the forest back there, so I was back there trying to take some of that USA frustration out from last night.
Oh yeah, I kind of. It's funny because I don't follow really hockey and stuff, but I saw you guys talking on Discord. But then I saw like the last thing I saw is like it's gonna go to overtime, so I didn't even have to look at the results. Because the conversation ended there. Nobody said anything for overtime. So I'm like, Canada must have won because nobody's saying anything.
Yeah, it was classic. It reminded me so much of Liverpool. Just like they were all over them the whole game and then ended up giving like the stupidest, they went for a line change and lost the puck. And they had Connor McCockey. You don't give him an open chance in front of net. He's not going to miss.
Oh, so. Connor, yes. I have no idea.
No idea what you're talking about. I was going to ask if Gordon Bombay was playing. You know what I mean?
Do you do other sports, Kazi? Do you do like old school British sports? Like, do you watch rugby, cricket?
A little bit of cricket, yeah, and basketball, really.
Cricket is like, if there's a sport worse than baseball, it's cricket.
Now you got to watch T20.
A full 5 days of watching, and that might end, and then most of the time end in a tie anyway. There you go. Just something to blow out American fans' minds there that a game can end in a tie. Yeah.
Forget that it can end in a tie. God, it is so painful to watch. But like I say, like it's like baseball, and now you don't have helmets. Is all I can think of.
You got to get into T20 first, and then
T20, yeah.
It's a sped up game. It's literally just 20 outs or 20 overs. Excuse me.
20 overs, yeah. It's like 4 hours of cricket. That's it, and everyone just tries to smash the ball as far as they can.
Do they still have like tea breaks? That was that. I'm like,
in a test match, do you have a break? Do you have a lunch break? Yes. Do you have a tea break? Yes. And then they can't play because it gets too dark, even though they have floodlights because they're trying to maintain tradition. And it's insane. Yeah.
So what's wrong with cricket is how England colonized those countries. Yeah, I remember like in England, I was like, like watching. That's the first time, obviously growing up in Turkey, you don't get, thankfully, exposed to cricket. So I was like exposed to it when we were in London when I was there for college. And I remember like watching it. I was like, man, this is so British. Like guys wearing like vests and khaki, like slacks and stuff like that. They're like, tea break, and then they're leaving. I was like, holy cow, this is really British. I'm like, this is too British for me. I can't handle it. And I came here and watched baseball, and I was like, yeah, this is the same shit. They just put helmets on. Okay, let's talk about this. Probably the biggest news of the day, and then we'll kind of get to the press conference and some of the stuff Slot said as we talk about the Manchester City game. PSG it is. I do like the first game away ordeal. I think it's away, right?
Yes. The home second.
So what do you make of that, Kazi? PSG. I wasn't happy with it. I would rather have Benfica, but go ahead.
Crap, aren't they? I mean, are we? This is not the same PSG of what we're thinking, are we? This is like a transitional PSG right now. I think the way they're playing in terms of that. Yeah, of course you prefer Benfica. But you're not running into like the fucking monsters here of PSG. It's just it's a standard French champion team. I have no issues with PSG right now. Again, if you're playing the one with Mbappe, Neymar, and Messi, we could have bit more of an in-depth chat. But it's not that PSG anymore. So as much as they are a good side, I like that. He's a Barcola. He looks like a bit of a player.
Yeah,
that young kid there. And who's the one that we're linked with? The midfielder with the double barrel name. Can't remember his name.
the kid they signed from Benfica.
No, his name's Zaya something. He's a midfielder, I think. Centre mid that Liverpool linked with. But yeah, fine. And again, I think if Liverpool are lucky and get through, playing a quarter final against Aston Villa or Club Brugge is as good as you can get, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They have players to hurt you. I think that's why we do so much better against Portuguese teams. I've only seen him play a couple of games ago, though, when the first game against Brest, which, very disappointed to find that it was a soccer game after I tuned in. But anyway, so like they kind of like,
it doesn't get better when Nice. It doesn't get better when
I watched the City game. I watched him play City. I watched the full 90 of that, and he battered City. Yeah. But then again, is that like impressive right now? Because everyone's battering City in Europe. I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
So. I think once they can get the momentum going, Gordo, I guess that's what I'm afraid of. Like some of the matchups, and maybe because I don't know Benfica as well, but I'm like, Hakimi running at Robertson scares the hell out of me. Things like that.
Well, it wasn't. That was the game that City was up 2-0, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then they came back. So, like, you can get at them. And Liverpool haven't knock on wood, have not collapsed like that this year. So, they are leaky at the back. Obviously, Brest didn't get any goals against them in 2 legs, but I think that was kind of a shock entry into that knockout phase anyway. So, kind of a freebie there for PSG. I'm not too bothered by that one. You're gonna, as Matu said in the comments of the Discord, it's like, in order to win the competition, you got to play good teams. You can't get to the final without playing good teams. So you're going to have to do it. Let's knock one out on the way in. I'm most disappointed though that all 3 British teams still in it are on the same side. That's, to me, that bothers me a lot. Like
why?
Why? I was going to say, yeah. I mean, it is odd, but I mean, why does it bother you? I guess is the question.
I don't know. It's just like you should give everybody a chance to just continue to prove that you're the best league in the world, in my opinion. And that would be 2 teams in the final, or the chance for 2 teams to be in the final. Now there's no way there can be 2 English teams in the final, and I don't know. It just, that one bothers me, especially because right now we're leading the coefficient for that 5th spot. Yeah. So I feel like
I think we've got it anyway.
You think so? Because we're like, it's like almost 20 points, I believe, over everybody else. We've got 6 of 7. It's nice to say that the 7th team is Man City, and everybody else has made it into the knockout phases or the groups, the round of 16. So, I don't know. It just feels like just another jab by UEFA. I know Cersei's put on his tinfoil hat this morning. It just, to me, I look at that and I go, yeah, that's somebody made that happen.
I think there's a part of this as well with this Champions League format, which again is another plus. I'm quite glad that you can play teams from your own country again in this round. So, for example, Real playing Atleti, Bayern Munich playing Leverkusen. I'm quite into that as well again, because it's just the draw. It is what it is. Like I didn't like when teams got protected until the last 8. I think it was the last 8 in the old format, and now it's just like, no, if you're playing the same team, doesn't matter if you played them before. Because I'm pretty sure Villa played Club Brugge, I think. In the knockout stage, they lost 1-0, didn't they?
Yeah, that's like the odd part. It was happening yesterday too when I was like following Europa, because there were teams who just played each other.
Yeah,
and it's obviously different when you're playing in the league format compared to the elimination format and stuff like that. I'm with Cersei over here. Don't care about playing good teams. You're
gonna have to eventually.
That's like an entitled prince talking. I mean, I understand. You gotta play, to be the best, you gotta beat the best. I understand that. That's what's gonna happen when you go to the semifinals and go against Real or Atletico Madrid and stuff like that. But the easiest route possible is preferred. But if you look at it, I mean, like you're saying, Kazi, the next game, the next matchup being Club Brugge or Villa is not too shabby. You could be in an Arsenal situation where your next one up is Real or Atletico Madrid.
Correct. And I don't think Arsenal. By the way, if we have Arsenal versus Atletico Madrid, I am not watching that game of football. Fuck me. That's 2 teams who do not want the football. You'll find a way to both have 30% possession each, and the referee and line can have 60% of the ball, and the fans just have 60% of the ball. But yeah, no, listen, it's. I'm happy with the draw. I am. I know people aren't because you could get Benfica, but that's just the look of the draw. That's fucking life, innit? But I mean, if you get Club Brugge and Villa in a quarter final, then a semi-final can be anything you like in a way. Let's get this right. I don't want to play Real Madrid in a semi-final of a cup, but what I will say is that to play Real Madrid on a second leg at Anfield in a semi-final, I'd rather play them than a final in a one-off game. So,
yeah, I agree.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. You say that. I think I would rather have him.
I've got too many Vietnam flashbacks from the last two.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. I mean, I don't know. I watch. Depends, right? Because they have like so many injuries and stuff like that. Depends on what they're gonna have. But I mean, you watch them against City. I mean, they can be, and that's what I guess worry about PSG too. They have some players, obviously not at the level of Real Madrid, but can be so lethal. And, they only need like a 3 seconds. They don't need to have like a good control of the game, and this is like good over here the last 5, like how you have a game where you're like, these last 5-10 minutes have been good, this is what we need to do or whatever. They don't need that. They need like 5 seconds, and that's what probably like worries me about a team like Real. I mean, there were moments yesterday where suddenly they just pop in and Mbappe just pops in behind and then scores. And
there's another part of this though. If you're a Real fan, you go, I don't want Athletic. And
I was going to say that's actually a tough matchup for him, because I've seen them play against each other in the league, and it was really, really painful.
You don't want your derby. I think they go to Atletico second leg. Like that's going to be horrific. Yeah. Horrific. Like if you're a Real Madrid fan, you look and go, I can't be arsed with that. Do you know what I mean? It's like us getting everything in it in a cup. You like, I'd be arsed with that. Like, you know what I mean? It's the same thing. So you never know. Atletico could do something for you. Atletico's a good side this year, by the way.
It's definitely the toughest round 16 matchup of any of them, in my opinion.
I think so. I mean, you look at Bayern and Leverkusen. Like, if you weren't watching a Liverpool game, Gordo.
Yeah, that's probably the one.
Yeah.
Well, I can't stand Madrid, so I'd watch the Bayern game anyways. Yeah.
Honestly, it's probably more football being played in the Bayern Leverkusen game anyway, as opposed to the wrestling match you're watching Madrid.
I also don't think that Benfica Barca is a bit of a buy. I think Benfica will be looking for absolute fucking revenge for what they did to them last time. Like, do you know what I mean? I think you'll go, especially at home first leg, Benfica might take a lead there. I'm not saying they're going to get through, but I'm saying they might take a lead to Barcelona and beat them 2-1 maybe. Do you know what I mean? I think that's actually a more difficult tie than only because what happened previously in the group stage.
Yeah,
that sounds like that side of the bracket is a lot easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and that Bayern team though it's not that great. It's the thing about Bayern is that they've always been like the team that kind of skates through their league, and then when it comes to actual games, they're like, gosh, we're actually not prepared for this because we haven't played anyone decent. And like, I mean, they just barely scraped through that Celtic tie.
Yeah,
I mean, they ended up getting it, but it was 2-1, and that Celtic team is not that great. So, I think that Benfica one for the emotion, that's like a Liverpool Everton at Goodison type game where like, the emotions might play more of a factor than the actual lineups.
Speaking of Scottish teams, Fenerbahce has got Rangers.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. And I know they're missing 2-3 guys from the first match.
That just sounds like murder. That just sounds like absolute murder. Like
it does.
I'm gonna watch. There you go. That's the game I'm going to watch.
Yeah, both legs. I mean, the fans and the stadiums and stuff like that. Yeah, that's going to be a blow. I wouldn't go to an away game if I was a fan. I would just avoid that like the plague. But okay, well, let's talk about our boys over here. Team news wise, I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch the pre-match press conference. Kazi, I know you said you did. It did not sound like, based on how he's talking about managing minutes and stuff like that, explaining like trend substitution and all that, even if available, it doesn't sound like you're going to have Gakpo starting anyway, even if he was able to make the bench.
I think that's the reason why he doesn't do Diaz on Wednesday, because he can't take a chance if he doesn't think Gakpo's right. Gakpo might be right. He did say that. He could be right. And I think he'll love Gakpo on the pitch. I think if he can get Gakpo on the pitch as soon as possible, he will. Because I think he wants to do Diaz and then again. Because I don't know what he thinks about Jota yet. He has a big... the question mark isn't Nunez. The question mark's Jota. I say this all the time. Nunez is just an anomaly. If he's just available, he's available and you can use him if he's not. Where Jota is the one. Of course, if you can get Jota on the pitch, great. But do you want Jota doing another game now? Does he want that? Does he want to go to Jota? You're doing 90 at Newcastle. No matter what, you're doing 90 at Newcastle. You're doing half an hour against City. 90 at Newcastle. And then you can manage that way. So I think if he gets Gakpo on the pitch, he does Diaz down the middle. But I also think he'll want Gakpo helping out Robertson in this game. Let's get this right, lads. Robertson's played every single minute of this tough
I
run.
worry about that.
Well, we'll get to the minutes and stuff like that of clearly who he trusts his players on and what's happened this season. He doesn't trust the other left back, clearly. I'm petrified of this because of Robertson's form this season. But by the way, Robertson's been playing well last couple of games. I think he was one of our better players against Wolves, especially, and I thought he did all right again on the weekend. Against Villa. But I think he'd love Gakpo to help Robertson out a lot in this game. I think he'd really like that. So I don't know, man. I'm worried. I am worried. I said this last night on the 30 show. This is like the biggest first 11 he's had to name since probably he's been a Liverpool manager, because there's a lot of question marks all over the field for the first time in months.
I feel like he will go with the trusted crew on this one, knowing. Or let me ask you this: does what Arsenal do on Saturday even change his mindset, or he's already gotten this written down? Except, I'm like I say, even if Gakpo is available, I don't see him starting. So do you think this 11 has already been made? I guess the biggest question is the 3 out of the 4 in the middle.
He had the 5 games in 15 days. I'm sure most of these lineup. He probably looked at the 5 as a subset and went, all right, which is the toughest run here, or which is the toughest match? I'll put my starting 11 there. And then you manage the minutes in the rest of those games. So I bet you he's had some idea of who his starting 11 is. Maybe not a set lineup, and he's obviously got to deal with injuries and who comes on, because at the start of that term he had a little bit more players that were available to him than he does now. So I think that when you have that many games, you can't play your starting 11. Like, bodies just do. Even if you're the most fit person, bodies do not work 5 games in 15 days. That's an incredible amount of workload. So I think he did have already in his mind, with pencil, maybe the starting 11 for this game.
I think
that's like the weird thing, though. When you listen to him, Kazi, he talks about. I mean, to me, he sounded like, because when we drop the ball in midfield,
right,
or can't control the game, or a guy misses a tackle and stuff. I mean, we somehow always put it to tired legs and stuff like that. And he kind of poo-pooed that altogether and said these guys can play every 3 days, barring an injury, kind of a deal. So maybe he does ride the starting 11 as long as he can.
Or he's going to learn a very harsh lesson about the Premier League, and that you can't do that like you could do in the Dutch league. I think you mentioned this before, by the way, in November. He mentioned the comment like this a lot, it was before Christmas especially. And again, and I keep saying this, we've all ridden the roller coaster, gents. We've all ridden this ride of being deep in competitions, and we know how this all works out. And by the way, we know how this squad works out. This isn't a different squad to the last couple of years. We've had about 2 players since. This is the same group of boys. So you will find that out. I think what's fucked him a little bit was Jones getting sent off at Everton. Because I think you would have loved to do Jones at Wolves to get Gravenberch his rest. But now Gravenberch can't get his rest, because I don't see him dropping Gravenberch in this game. Because by the way, Gravenberch looks leggy as fuck.
Yeah.
And I don't care what he says. I know he says it positionally and all that. I think that's a load of garbage. I think
that was a player he poo-pooed it on, and he pretty much said, no, it's basically more situational than being tired.
He hasn't kicked a football in 2 years in anger, basically. He's played, 8 games in 2 years, and now he's playing every single minute. That don't sense to him. Oh my God, kid looks tired. Could you believe it? He's, by the way, this is one of the reasons why Conor Bradley's injured. Ian Matheson just runs past Gravenberch, and Gravenberch looks like he's running in custard. It just genuinely looks like he's running in custard. And then Bradley overstretches, gets injured. And this is what snowballs on a football field when you have slow midfielders. Let's get this right, from 75 to 90 against Villa, the last 15, we were absolutely appalling. We had no control over the ball at all. We panicked. The manager didn't. I think the manager got a subs wrong, but I don't want to keep harping back to it, but all based around your midfield. It's called the engine room for a reason. You need legs in there. He takes McAllister off because he has to save McAllister for City, and we just lost all control of the game. So, and the reason why I'm saying, I know what you're saying, I don't think it's as solid as you think, gents, of this team. I don't, he has a big question mark over Robertson, so we're doing Robertson. We agree with that. He has a big question mark over Kwanzaa doing right back. I'm not saying for this game. I'm saying if Trent can do 70, 90, or are we rolling Trent for the next 2 games when clearly we haven't got a backup right back right now? Are you rolling Trent for the next 2 90s? and go to Kwanzaa. You're doing Southampton at home. But the Southampton at home game, you're getting 9 days rest before we play Southampton anyway. So there's no point in getting arrested. Do you know what I'm saying? Trent has to play that game technically. So what I'm arguing is, June for the last 20 minutes now, he probably has to do Kwanzaa right back for the last 20 against City.
I think he will. Yeah.
Do you want him against fucking Doku, left wing? Kwanzaa right back, because that's what you're gonna get. Because if I'm Pep Guardiola, mate, I'll be laughing my tits off going that to Doku off the bench. You run at him, like, do you know what I mean? So this is a part of the snowball effect that happens in squad management. This is what happens when you don't rest your players in January and you don't give them off minutes and stuff like that. You get to this point and tiredness kicks in. We've ridden the roller coaster, gents. We know what happens, and it's not that the manager. And I keep saying this: the manager's going to make mistakes. He's learning on the job. It's his first season. He's entitled to make all the mistakes he's allowed to. But you have to trust your squad. And he hasn't.
I don't agree with that. I know what you think, Gordo. I don't agree with that. He has not. I mean, the lack of injuries alone, I think, is proof that he's managed the minutes and the subs and the squad well. Because this time any club year, we had a long list of injuries. And that was because we rode those guys really long. I think when we look at just minutes played, it's very deceiving because those guys ended up playing when the other guys got injured. Whereas now we're looking at a team, when you look at the minutes now, because I know you said you guys were talking about it last night as well. I haven't gotten the chance to watch it, but probably will watch it when I work now. But I think in the past, the minutes were there because we had to, because they were out. The other guys were injured, which is what, like, for example, Kwanzaa getting right back minutes that we'll have to now. I feel like the minutes now has been based on more rotation, Gordo, because we haven't had as many injuries. And I think we haven't had as many injuries because we have managed the minutes better.
You're asking we're gonna see more rotation because
I guess the question is, like, what do you think about the rotation he's done so far? Like, enough, more? I mean, obviously we always want more, but
I think that we'd like to see more. I know that we talk about it, then we see the lineups and we go, all right, well, he's rotated 2 squads. And then we got the rotation that we sort of have been calling for in like a rubber match against Plymouth, and then, it didn't look great at all. It was awful. And he learned his lesson there too, which, like, that's going to be a learning curve for him, that, like, even much lower opposition, you can't just play a B team, everyone's got a chance to win a game. So I think he definitely sticks with the 11 that he likes, and he's been really playing them hard. But at this point in the game, at this point in the season, you have to give players rest, especially like now. We are at the precipice of that. Well, we're coming to the end of this 5-game stretch, and then we've got a pretty light March. I think there's only 2 Premier League games in March.
One, Southampton and all.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Which is really weird, but.
And then you've got Everton again at home for a little revenge match. So, like, you've got a little bit of rest here, and, like, it's probably the most difficult time for the manager, especially who hasn't done this roller coaster, where, like, end of February, March is always a difficult period for Liverpool. It's always a difficult period for most, title chasing teams, because you've had this target on your back for 2-3 months where everyone's trying to chase you down, and, even the minnows are trying to take points off you because, every week you're in the media. And then you've got the December, which most teams could make it through December, but that's when the legs start hurting. And it catches up to you at the end of February. And I think, like, he's going to have to be forced to make the changes. But it's one of the toughest decisions, because you play them and then you give them their rest in March. Or do you rest them now to save them for the rest of the season? Like, do you risk pushing them too far? Because I agree with Kazi, like, Gravenberch, no fault of his own. And that's why I don't think anyone's picked on him in Discord, because the man's played every minute there possibly is, and he's been brilliant for us all season, but it's caught up to him. I mean, it looks like he's jelly by 70 minutes.
And I think one thing that hasn't helped, actually, Kazi, is when we've had these games where he fully rotated, it just felt like those guys did not really say, hey, see, I mean, the Plymouth game, I know, but even you look at the PSV game and stuff like that, and, you never saw, like, guys like Elliott and stuff like that, Elliott, Chiesa, you never said, yeah, this guy should be getting more minutes. We always said for Elliott, for example, and then he starts, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is why you don't get a lot of minutes. It was more of a confirmation of why they weren't getting as many Premier League minutes than making a case for more minutes, if that makes sense.
But is there an argument that these lads should be playing with the boss players to have their chance? Is that like because
that's fair?
I think Jarrell Kwanzaa looks a lot better alongside Virgil van Dijk than he does the rest. That's just me, you know what I mean? So
I would look a lot better next to Van Dijk, to be fair, too.
That's what I'm saying, no, but he looks a fish out of water sometimes, doesn't he? And now the kid goes alongside Virgil. I thought he was great against Wolves in the second half. I thought he was great. Do you know what I mean? So I just think, you know, I kind of broke down the minutes like last night on the thing, and Harvey Elliott's played 75 Premier League minutes this season. 75 minutes. If he's your squad option, he's clearly not an option because you've used him for 75. I could have played 75 minutes and we still would have won the games over the 20-odd games that he's been involved in. And those played 99 minutes this season in the Prem. Whether you like it or not, all I'm saying is you can't go with a midfield against Wolves at home. I know the Wolves game turned out, by the way, and you understand. But you can't go with the midfield at home before that game starts of Endo, McAllister and Szoboszlai. Like, you can't do that to get Gravenberch to rest. I understand Jones might have fucked him and that could have been his plan. Okay, fair enough, I can argue that. Kwanzaa's played 270 minutes. Now, whether you like Kwanzaa or not, that's for another conversation. If he is your 3rd/4th centre-half, whatever he is, he has to play more minutes than that, in my opinion. Kostas has played 360 minutes in the Premier League. We have a left-back who's clearly on his last legs. He's coming to the twilight of his career.
Are you resting Van Dijk then, or are you not playing Konate? I'm confused.
No, I would have played Kwanzaa into form in case you need him. You've got to play these lads. So, for example, let's just say Trent gets injured against City out for the season. Well, Kwanzaa hasn't barely played minutes of football this season. You have to get them minutes. Ready for them to be ready to come into your team and ready to rock. But the problem is he hasn't really rotated. He hasn't really got them in, is my argument. So, for example, I'm going here. Kostas has played 360 minutes. If Robertson gets injured now, is he ready to go? And you go, Kostas is poor. Yeah, he's barely kicked the footy all year, lads.
Dude, Kostas can play like 1,000 minutes a year. I'm not still going to say, oh, good, Kostas is here and he's running.
No. I'm not arguing that. My argument is there's certain games that you should be able to play 2 or 3 changes, or even 4 changes of a squad.
But all these minutes you're giving are Premier League minutes, right?
Of course. Yeah, why not?
But that's when he has rotated, is I think when we're not in the Premier League. So he can play his guys at the Premier League.
Of course. Okay, so this is exactly the so you played yourself into the position that you're in now because these are your guys. So you've trusted these guys, but now your guys are getting injured. So you've got to, it's a squad of 23 or 24 that you've got to play them into form. You've got to play them alongside the boss ones now and then.
But I mean, Dan, you're not, okay, I don't know, like you weighing Gordo. I mean, to me, I don't know. I mean, you guys, you want a cake and you want to eat it too, because if he's playing, then Robertson is not playing. I mean, I'd rather have it where he is what he's done, because like he's played them not as much in the Premier League. He's used them in the cups, sometimes in the Champions League when we rotated and stuff like that, got him in their minutes there. You can't just have like Kwanzaa play a ton of minutes, because now that means Konate is not playing
20 minutes. I'm not sorry.
But so I'm having trouble finding where you're finding fault in that, because that makes the most sense, because as you're rotating those players, not only are they like fit for the games, they're also their emotional state is much better. So when they're coming into big games like a City, like let's say you put a 99-minute Endo in against City, you know, he's going to be freaking out. He's not as used to it. And then on the other side, the more you play him, the more rest everyone else gets. So you're not even dealing with injuries. So you don't have to call on players because you have no other options. You call on players because that's the guy you chose to do. And I feel like that's a much better place to be in. It's like, you know, you'd want to make the decision to put somebody in instead of being forced to, because as Kazi said, if Trent gets injured, we don't have an option. We have to choose Kwanzaa, whether he's ready. I get that,
but then you guys are saying bench Trent, play Bradley.
Only in like 3 games is what I'm saying. Look at our January.
But he's done that. That's what I'm saying. He's subbed them. Look at Bradley's minutes. I guarantee you, go to the last 3-4 seasons. Look at our backup right backs minutes. They're nowhere close. We're not even counting, like, because I don't want to count like League Cup and stuff. That's when, like, you know, like club would throw all the kids and stuff like that out there. So I don't want to count that. But if you look at it overall with like Champions League, where there were more games initially in the Champions League, I feel like, I personally think we've had more minutes from the backups. We've seen the backups out there a lot more. Yeah. It feels like we have not, because he has not done all the benches going out there. All the starters are going out there, kind of a thing that club used to, where it's been like 3-4 guys changing, 3-4 guys changing.
It's factually incorrect. That's the other part. It's just.
Well, you're only looking at the Premier League minutes. I'm saying when the guy plays against. I mean, I don't want to count PSV because that was kind of like the Plymouth game, I guess.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I understand.
Games, he's rotated guys. Like he started Costas, he started Bradley and stuff like that. So those are still minutes. I mean, you can't play him there and here, and then what are you going to do with your starter? So now your starter is not playing at all.
Yeah,
like I just don't understand I'm all for rotation and getting more minutes, maybe subbing earlier and stuff like that. But if you go back, we haven't really had a lot of games where we won handily, where you could say, well,
why don't you? So
like you sub like get guys in earlier.
But you could trust your squad. That's what I'm saying before the game. You can't say it in hindsight. I'm saying before the game. Before the game against Wolves, that's a great example. It's Wolves at home, right? You can't look and go, I can do Endo. I can give Gravenberch a rest in this 5-game run. I can do Endo now. Why can't you do that?
Because I've said why Endo doesn't start in this team multiple
times.
That's
fine. So why is he here then? So why is he here? If you don't trust him, why is he here? If you clearly
it's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of it's not an apples for apples change.
Of course, and I argue that. That's fine. So what does he? I completely agree with you. By the way, he's not an apples for apples on Gravenberch. Why is he here then?
What are you going to do? Like you send him in January? Is that what you're doing?
No, you sell him and you go and get your options right in the summer and go, well, I can do that for that. And that's how you plan a squad. Liverpool have ridden this roller coaster, Tim. We know what happens.
I know I've been in the roller coaster, but what at least you are asking for, there's like, you can't have that and then have the starters playing too and get the points every single time. Nobody has 22 deep squads where they trot them out there and win Premier League games easily. I mean, even like Gordo, even City, we see now they have 3-4 injuries and it's not the same. And they spent billions.
But their squad isn't as deep as it.
That can do exactly what the starter does. Otherwise, the starter would not be the starter.
See, I think like you look back like 3-4 years ago at City, this City team is not anywhere as deep as it has been in the past, and they've sold more guys than they've brought in. And I would argue that their bench was so deep 3-4 years ago that we didn't even notice that they were rotating because the names would have been starting on any other team. I don't have the figures in front of me to back that up, but I bet if we dug into it, like the season that they had 100 points, I bet you there was great rotation in that squad. Yeah. And we didn't notice it because their bench was, there was 8 guys on the bench that would find their way into anybody's starting lineup.
I mean, they were all like, I mean, I guess if you look at our bench, they're all international players too. But I feel like, they've had more. When they've had injuries, it's like the same thing. There's a reason the backup is backup, I guess, is where I'm at, Kazi. And I understand the trust thing, but I think that's why in this offseason, you get a guy that is like Szoboszlai, and it's not Elliott's because he's not like Szoboszlai. You get a guy who's more like McAllister, but it's a matter of, that's why I think it's his first season trying to figure out who fits this, who can do what he wants, and who ultimately can't. Like we find out that, Elliott really can't. And I think Endo can, but in a limited role, it's not apples for apples when you put in Endo for like McAllister.
I completely agree with that. I do. I just feel like when we get into this, you get into the business end here of this season, we look leggy. Let's have it right. We look leggy. I thought Liverpool played well against Villa, by the way. We looked leggy against Wolves. I thought we played better against Villa.
Villa was fine, yeah.
But I look at, for example, someone like Chiesa. Whether you like him or not, I don't care. You signed him. So clearly you give the go-ahead off the club. You've given a yes to Chiesa.
Why do you guys think he doesn't play?
I don't know, because he's playing Curtis Jones left wing over him.
He's making them bench.
He's playing Curtis Jones left wing over him. So this is my point. So why don't you trust the signing that you made then? Trust him to go and play left wing. Because what you did there, by the way, I thought Curtis Jones was great against Villa on the ball. Off the ball, he looked like a different man. He was just getting ran past because that's not his game. I think we all agree with that.
Well, we've always said if we can combine Szoboszlai with it's so much better off the ball.
Yeah, you'd have Gerrard again. But this is the point. It's like I'm not frustrated with the manager because again he's learning on the job. I just don't like the end of this ride and this movie that we all go on where Liverpool just fucking get burnt out, and then we'll probably if we get knocked out against PSG, you'll get Liverpool fans going, it's probably better if you get knocked out the Champions League, so we just concentrate on the league. I don't want to hear that conversation. Yeah, exactly. That's a bollocks conversation to have. I just feel like, mate, if they're a part of your squad, and they're there, and they are your options. You should have used them more, and you should trust them more. The difference is now Southampton's really thrown a curveball for the manager because there's a 9-game rest before Liverpool's next game.
Yeah, it's the worst freaking fixture to have there.
Honestly, genuinely, I would prefer like a big fucking Spurs away game or something like that. A hard game where you can go, you know what, I'll still make 3 or 4 changes. But now all those lads need to play because they've got to get ready for PSG on the Wednesday. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that's when it's scheduled, just after that, I think. Or the second leg is, I can't remember. So it's just, all I'm saying is, mate, I feel like the Plymouth game especially has done more damage than you think in terms of he doesn't trust Kostas anymore. Kostas was getting little bum minutes to come on. He's not even getting the bum minutes. So come on.
And that's the part, I think. That's what I was saying. Like, these guys that play these rubber matches. I mean, Hassan says Endo, Elliott, and Chiesa need more playing time, bring them around 65 minutes. I think the issue is when we brought Elliott in, when we brought not Endo, I think Endo in the coming off the bench role has been effective. I mean, and I still go back to if Endo comes in the Everton game, I think we kind of like, we save the points there. I mean, he should be in any game where we're kind of
because
buckling up, because that's his role.
Yeah, when he comes on, we change the tactics change.
Yeah,
because he isn't a like for like, and that's like I think that's one of Slot's biggest strengths that we've seen this season is he plays players in systems that work to their best abilities, and he doesn't try and force a player to do a Gravenberch when he takes Gravenberch off. So
yeah,
I see. There's so many, like, I feel like it's a catch-22 with all of it, right? Because if you play the minutes and spread them out, you're less likely to get injuries. Everybody's safe, and then you can choose and pick your players. But then there's also like as you had said, you have your starting lineup, and he seems very comfortable with who he wants. If everybody's fit, he's got a starting 11 that we could probably all rattle off here that we'll see every game if they're fit and available. But that's not – we talk so much, and the media talks so much, and the managers talk so much about how many games there are that we have to play. You can't stick with 11 guys and then bring guys in to play, piss minutes for 30, 35 minutes a game. You need guys to come in and do a job. Maybe it's a different job, but they get the job done, and you need to have a little bit more faith in them. And to Kazi's point, if you don't, then it doesn't make sense why they're here. It doesn't, because if you why even put him on the bench if you're never going to use him? I don't know.
He's a good point. Darwin's a great argument here. So Darwin's played 9 Premier League games this season in terms of minutes. You just turned down an 80-90 million pound bid from Saudi Arabia in January. If he's more of an option, why isn't he playing more? By the way, you know my thoughts on him. But if he is your backup striker and you're telling me you're trying to rest Luis Diaz in the Villa game and you're trying to save him basically for City, why isn't he starting then and putting Jota left wing? Or why isn't he starting Darwin in his left wing and putting Jota down the middle? Clearly you don't trust him.
I was going to say, yeah, he has. It almost sounded like, I don't know if you guys watched this thing with like Jota. Is it Jota, McAllister, and Konate? I think it was, if I remember right. But Jota was talking about, basically he was told you're going to play up to, like in the beginning of the season, decisions were made in terms of no more middle, dude. You're on the left. Jota, none of this winger shit. You're in the middle kind of thing. And I know what you mean. You can, but I think we have we have the luxury of doing hindsight now because the points are already won and in the bag. Because if you play a game that you won 2-0 and then we don't actually win that game, we'd be like, you have Szoboszlai there. Why is Elliott out there? Is what he would get.
This is the point. By the way, and Tim, you can back me up here. I've been saying this for months that you're going to have to get these lads into form. I've been saying this in October, November that you're going to have to play these lads. But the difference is now, though, and this is the positive of it. This is the first time that Liverpool will be 8 points clear with 12 to go. Forget about winning the league. That was an anomaly. No one does that ever again.
Yeah.
We are 8 points clear when we started to look leggy. We started to look leggy being 4 points behind. We're looking leggy being 8 points clear. So now you can manage minutes more. For example, I would be 100% starting Kostas at Newcastle and going to Robertson. You're not doing 5 on 15 days because I need you for PSG in the cup final. Whatever you like, I need you to start Southampton, PSG in the cup final. Do you know what I mean? And then go away to Scotland for me. I know people won't like the sound of that, but I'm sorry, but that's how you have to manage a squad. Would you rather do that, Gordo,
or do like a 60-30 both games? Because Robertson is the guy I worry about in this we talked about he should be playing once a week earlier on when he was extremely poor. So I feel like I agree with Kazi rarely this morning that I think like Robertson is a concern. And it should, I mean, do you do 60-30, 60-30, or do you say, you know what? This game is yours. This game is yours.
The game has to be played on the field. I think that's how you start it, right? I think that's the game plan. But if everything goes, as Serzi says, tits up, then you're going to have to rely on somebody to come in and change something up. If he's getting absolutely murdered on that right hand side or the left hand side, then you're gonna need to bring in somebody. But I would prefer, if I had to choose to do the 90, it definitely would be Robertson, City, and Costas against Newcastle, especially like watching the recent form of Newcastle. I know that, going to St. James, we had a tough tie, but that's a different, the weather wasn't favorable.
Should win the game. Should win the game.
Yeah, exactly. And it was, it's at St. James, which is a tough place to play anyways. But I mean, City, who have been so hot and cold. I mean, you watch them just get played off the park by Madrid in midweek. And then how they played Newcastle, I'm not super bothered by that. The only thing that bothers me is it's at the end of this long run. And it could be that they get one over on us because we're tired.
This is the point. And this is my point, though, Tim. Like, and again, isn't that a good thing for Costas if you go tell Costas you're starting Newcastle? Forget Plymouth, fella. You fucking had a nightmare, but I'm going to trust you to start this game for me. Isn't that a big kick up the arse for him?
I mean, it's better for Costas. Is it better for us? Is the main question.
If you can't trust him, why is he here? Like, this is the point. Nick Gordo said before.
That's why you have that's why one guy's a starter, one guy's a backup. I understand what you're saying, but you still have a guy to go to. You might have another guy that can do the job, and at times might not do it just as well. But you're gonna go with. I understand the argument, but I don't agree with the argument.
He's an international football player. He's an international football player. Like, am I fucking losing my mind here? Liverpool.
So Nunez.
And so I'm arguing. I was arguing in September. Back me up here, Tim. I was arguing in September that he should be starting to play these lads. You've got to play everyone. We've been on the roller coaster. He hasn't.
But he has played them, dude. I didn't see you last year jumping up and down, wanting more minutes for Costas.
What you mean?
He's played probably 5 times, 10 times more than what he played last year.
Costas started, if you remember, fella, Costas started 12 games last year after Robertson done his shoulder and then was out for 3 months.
Goes back to what you were saying.
Costas was great, by the way.
Because you had to, not because you.
Well, that's the whole argument. That is the argument. Is that he was forced to play him. Yeah. And that's what we don't want to do. We want to be able to choose the players. And also, I think what we're getting hung up on is like a starting 11 is. I know. This
isn't basketball.
It's like putting blinders on. You have a team. Everybody on the team should be able to move in. You've got 24 guys in the squad, and that 24 guys, like, I think, take the start, like the word starter off.
I know.
And you've got to be able to interchange these guys. It's not 11 guys and some extras.
But he hasn't interchanged, though, Tim. This is the fact. He hasn't. He hasn't done it as much.
I just don't understand how you guys want 24 guys all even or something like that.
No one said that. No one said that.
No. You got to be able to move pieces like, ones and twos.
No, I understand that. And I personally think he has done a good job of sprinkling 2-3 at a time where he's been able to rotate without being wholesale rotate. But you are going to have your starting right wing. You're going to have your starting left wing. Yes, you should rotate, but then you can't expect, okay, let's say Chiesa, right? Yeah. If he's over there, he should be getting minutes. Play him into minutes. So you take him more out.
Oh, my Lordy fucking Christ. He just started.
Are you taking more out or what are you doing?
He's just started Curtis Jones fucking left wing.
Okay, what I'm asking you is you have to take somebody out. That guy's a starter for a reason. So you have to take somebody out to be able to get these guys more minutes.
Chiesa can only play one position. That's it. Chiesa's only right wing. That's it. Even though last year,
that's why he's playing right wing, because you're never going to take Moad. My point was, you have going to have a squad. I understand what you're saying, Gordo, but you're going to have guys at different levels. I mean, not everybody in that squad is going to be in the same level, but you just roll the dice every week, 12 dice, and then come up with like a starting 11.
I think it's like it's got to be fluid. Right, it has to be like there's some guys that come into form and there's some guys that drop off of. Like, look at Diaz in the beginning of the year. What was it, like 7 goals in the opening 9 games or something like that, and now he's gone cold. And so like he was surefire start. It was that thing we were wondering who was going to start every week. and then he goes off and he's favoring Gakpo, which is how it should be. And Robertson wasn't having some good form, and Costas comes in. So instead of it being like your starting 11, it's more or less like, from here on out, from the beginning of the season to the end. I think we've been blessed and cursed by having players like Ferg and Mo, where it's like, yeah, those guys are always going to be in.
Yeah.
Whereas it's for all the other positions, it shouldn't be your starting 11 from today, August 28th to May 30th. You're the starter, and everyone's going to have to fight you for positions. It should be like, you're in form, now you're playing. Yeah. You're out of form, you're on the bench, and you've got to earn it in training, and then that rotates in. So I think it's less, or it's more fluid. I think it should be more fluid.
Part of that to be able to do that, and I think that's why this summer, it will be a huge summer in that sense. Is you're going to have guys that are more interchangeable that actually fit the system. I agree with clear that Elliott can't do what Szoboszlai does, and if you want to play a certain way, the guy you replace has to be able to.
But what he does.
Give it at least at the 90% level, maybe not as good as the starter, but I think that there are some parts that don't necessarily fit.
Here's my point on this, right? Here's where the manager, I think, has evolved a little bit because he doesn't trust him anymore. So come on. Before Christmas, he was doing a lot of Costas Robo as the sub. A lot of it. He's not doing it anymore because he doesn't trust him to do it. Because we're getting to the business end, he doesn't trust him anymore.
So those guys have lost the trust basically along the season. Like, did not make most of the opportunities they got.
Going back to the point, that's why I think Plymouth did more damage than good. Because Plymouth, it was that bad against Plymouth. He was awful. Mm-hmm. He doesn't trust him anymore to do these dog minutes. So that's one of the arguments. The other argument is Diaz and Gakpo. Now, he says in that interview with Jota, you're playing centre forward.
Yep.
Right? He says it's Gakpo, you're playing left wing, basically, right? But it's okay for you to fucking pick and choose a Diaz position and play Diaz out of form. Because, by the way, as much as players can be in form, you can play them out of form by moving the position all the time. I would argue that he's played Diaz out of form, even though I'm not his biggest fan. I would argue he's played him out of form. So there's a part of this now where you go, well, I played him out of form. I can't trust him in Villa away now because I need him because Gakpo's injured. But you told Jota he's going to play down the middle consistently. When he should have went to Jota, hey, you need to do me a favour here because I'm not playing Curtis Jones left wing. Oh, you're doing that. I'm going to play Nunez down the middle. But you know why you can't do that? Because you can't trust Darwin Nunez.
Yes.
Because you didn't like his performance against Wolves. Do you get what I'm saying? And this is all the snowball effect. I'm not saying it's right or wrong here, Tim. All I'm saying is that we have 12 games to go, not including in the cups. You will have to see more of Endo. You will have to see more of Elliott. You will have to see more of Kwanzaa and fucking Costas. Especially Kwanzaa now. We have one right back. We have a right back who clearly is playing him back.
Do we even hear how long Bradley is out? Because I know in the pre-match he said they didn't know yet. But that was 2 days ago. Is it
6 weeks? Did I reckon? No, I don't know. Because they said a couple of games at least. He said at least a couple of weeks.
So basically, he's not going to be back till end of March.
Well, it's going to be April because of the international break. And Northern Ireland are definitely picking him. He's the captain of Northern Ireland, so he's definitely going to go. Do you know what I mean? So all I'm saying is, mate, is like he has to get these lads eventually. They're going to have to get on the pitch. They're going to have to donate and be a part of this journey that we're all on. You know what I mean?
I think once the Champions League games kick in, but I think right now he's hoping for. Let's ride it to basically pass the Newcastle game, get the break, and then we'll kind of like reset.
But then you live by the sword, don't you? You live by the sword and die by the sword.
Exactly. And I think, but hey, at the end of the day, he can say, these are the guys that brought us here too. So, but having said that, let's talk about the City game before we go. Gordo, midfields. Are we going with the default settings in this game? Does Jones get a spot? What do you expect?
Seeing that this is the more difficult of the end of the run here. Yeah, I don't think we see too much rotation, and we see more of it at Newcastle. I think this is because of what we've done. Because I said at the beginning of the stretch, if we get 11 or more points, we're in good shape out of these 5, and we still have the ability to do that. But you win the Everton game, right? Or you don't allow the late goal there, and it makes these two a little bit easier. Because I really feel like if you don't win here, then the Newcastle game becomes what we don't want is the Newcastle game to become more important than it is, because it's the easier of the 2 games. It should be the easier 2 games. We should have no problem picking up 3 points. But if we don't get 3 points here, then it's the mental. It's it's Anfield, the crowd. It's if we're not in it early, we go a goal down, which sometimes happens. Then the crowd gets in on it, the players get in on it, and then it is also the 5th game in 15 days. You're already going to be tired. So I really think that this is the game that you throw all your chips at. But like Kazi said, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. It's a position that I'm glad I'm not in.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, we're going. So are we in agreement that it's Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, McAllister?
I don't like it, but yeah, I don't like it.
Diaz on left, Jota in middle, Mo on the right.
I wouldn't. I think if Gakpo's fit, I would start Gakpo. And I tell you why. There's 2 reasons. Number one, I think I want him to help Robertson out defensively, and I think he's a better defender than Diaz is on that side. And then number 2, I really want Diaz running a Kieran Trippier on Wednesday.
That's a good point.
And they might do Livramento, but Trippier started against City and he had an absolute nightmare. So they might do Livramento, but I really fancy just Diaz just holding up Trippier for a while and just, I don't know. That's the only reason I've got around it. The argument is, though, of course, is that they haven't got a right back either. City, they've got Rico Lewis playing right back. He's a bit rash and he's a bit of a kid, and maybe you can get Diaz on the pitch just to run at him and get an early yellow or something like that. So for me, it really is. The manager's kind of played himself into it, though, hasn't he? So
honestly, that's the problem. I mean, like you were saying, Gordo, the Everton and the Villa draws made this. That's why I was harping on the fact that the Villa game was important. It has made it. I don't know about a must win. A draw would not be devastating, but at the same time, it just kind of builds the pressure unnecessarily.
Yeah, it's the external pressure. It's not so much the pressure, mathematically on the table, because let's get this right. 8 points. Like Arsenal have to not only pick up 8 points, but we have to drop 8 points. So like that's it's harder to do, but it becomes easier when all the external pressures start building up. It's when you get the emotion of the fans and Anfield isn't the fortress it is because everyone's nervous and it gets quiet and we go down and everyone's moaning and groaning, and then the media. I mean, as much as we love to pretend that these guys kind of shut off and plug themselves in after a game in the locker room, they never leave. They just kind of shut off and go down. These guys go home and they read the papers and they talk to people in the town and in the city, and they get stick on Instagram, and so they pick up all that pressure as well, and that's what you don't want. And I think though, like during the games, it's always tough when you're actually in them, but before games start is usually what I try and reference everything to. And I think before this run started, I think even you had mentioned that Villa game was the hardest of the 5.
Yeah.
And we didn't look bad. Like we definitely picked ourselves back up from Wolves. And when you compare those 2 games, it was night and day. And for us to get a point there, I'm fine with it. And Everton's always, historically, that's just a point. So like in retrospect, we haven't done as bad as I think that everyone else is building this out to be. Yeah. I think, again, the Plymouth game does not help the situation or the narrative because we lose that. And most people did not watch that. Most neutrals did not watch that game. And the media definitely is like, oh, look at this. They couldn't even beat Plymouth. The narrative was built, and we've sort of, with the points that we picked up or the lack of points that we picked up, it's just kind of added to that narrative. It's like, look, see, we told you.
There's a part of this, I think, if you're the manager, you can sit down with the players and go, you've had hard lines here a little bit. You've been unlucky a little bit. And they'll go, well, what do you mean? Well, you conceded the last-minute wonder strike from Everton, not to get the win. And Darwin Nunez was their open goal to win the game. So I think there's an argument where you can sit down with the players and go, you're playing fine, lads, and you can give them that confidence and go, you've had hard lines, it's footy. What the argument is, kill the game off, and that doesn't make an effect. Of course, that is a part of that conversation. But I think in those 2 games, the Villa game and Everton game, by the way, really tough games, Liverpool should win. Liverpool shouldn't concede. Whether Liverpool deserve to beat Everton or not, you should win the game with the minutes that's on the clock. Definitely. Whether you deserve to beat Villa or not, I thought we deserved to beat Villa. Your striker shouldn't miss an open goal and miss the chances that he did. And same with Jota, by the way. I'm not just here to dig Nunez out. Same with Jota. So if you're the manager, you can go 4 extra points there, lads, we've left on the table. Lucky we still got 8 points, but you've left 4 on the table. Do you know what I mean? So there's that part of that conversation as well. I think where you can kind of be unlucky a little bit as well in games. Because that's, by the way, I thought Liverpool rid their luck before Christmas. And now maybe that's kind of come back a little bit. So, any
hopes on West Ham getting anything tomorrow, Gordo? Because it sounds as if Arsenal wins on Saturday, they must have win game. I would argue that, I mean, yes and no, but if West Ham does get something out of that game, definitely eases the pressure, and a draw does not look as bad. Let's put it that way, against City away. Do you expect, because honestly, I wasn't expecting anything last weekend. I woke up and saying, what? and then obviously they get the 2 late goals and stuff like that. But do you expect West Ham? Are you going to be hopeful? Let's ask.
No, I don't. I think, like you watched the difficult game that Arsenal had to play last weekend, and they were able to pick up the 2 goals late from an unlikely source. I mean, obviously, you start Sterling up there, and he does nothing, and they bring on a midfielder to play a number 9. He scores 2. That's the kind of that definitely is going to give him a boost. I don't think West Ham's going to give him too much trouble. I think they'll be fine. But I don't think it affects us because we're 8 points ahead right now, and we've just got to play our game. I think that like the fan base too, like it doesn't matter. They want 38 wins in a row, and they're not going to. You can't get 38 wins in a row. You can't. It's just impossible. You're going to drop
all this, basically, including those points, depends on them winning against us at Anfield.
Which is never.
You know what I mean? Like without that, I feel like they have no shot. This is all depending on them winning at Anfield. And I don't know if that will be kind of like a Barcelona type game because Anfield will know you win that, you definitely get the title. And you don't even lose. I think that's, Arsenal. If I'm an Arsenal fan, I'm hoping that has to be a 3, and then we got to catch up these other points.
I think the Forest game scheduling for them kills them. Mm-hmm. I think Forest away on Wednesday night, we've just been there. It's fucking as hard as you like. So this thing of if Liverpool get a draw against City, for example, and they beat West Ham and we're still 6 points clear. Okay, no problem. But you go to Forest and win that. We'll do our business at Newcastle at home. And before you know it, you could be 9 points clear anyway on Wednesday because they could lose to Forest quite conceivably. And then Liverpool could beat Newcastle and you're still 9 points clear on the same. I think they'll have a game in hand, but they have a game in hand. There's Chelsea away. I can't remember. But I'm with Gordo. I don't see West Ham getting anything. The only thing I would say is if it is tight on the hour mark or it's 0-0 on the hour, I'd be interested to see how that crowd reacts. I'd be interested to see it was different last week because they were away from home. So you can't hear the groans from the crowd when you misplace a pass and shit like that. And there's no striker on the bench, and you can't hear that crowd get that agitated and shit like that. It'd be interesting because West Ham with Graham Potter, anything could happen. We don't know. I'd argue right now West Ham have a better strike force than Arsenal.
Oh yeah, definitely
right now. So I don't know. I would expect Arsenal to win the game, but I'm really interested to see if they do keep it tight till the hour mark to see how that crowd react to it.
Especially Arsenal fans, for one. Not to mention, they're already irked, Gordo, that they did not do anything in January, knowing the situation. So if the goal does not come, I agree with Kazi that they will be more irate than even normal because I think there's a background frustration of them not doing anything, knowing the situation in January.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And it's like I always say, they're the fan base that they win and lose titles every game. It's the fan base that they don't pick up the 3, the world is ending. They pick up the 3, they've just won the title. I mean, I honestly, and this could come back to bite me, but that was it the City game where they celebrated like they'd won something and it was just that mentality. I just that's the dressing room's mentality.
It is,
where they go yes, for them, that's we've been there. It's so good when you beat City. But it is not. I don't think it's worth the celebration they gave, and that to me just shows that I don't think that they have it in them because the mentality just isn't quite there. To me, it reeks of immaturity.
Sure.
Honestly, it would make sense to me if that was last year and they beat City and they were celebrating. This is not when we beat City. It was different because they were the team that you're going to battle for the title, whereas Arsenal know now. Well, they're not.
They were. I think they were 6th or 7th when they beat them 5-1 too.
I don't think they were. I don't think it's any of that. That's not their business anymore. I think Arsenal, their biggest issue that they've got as well, apart from the strike force and everything like that, is again it's those games where it's tight. It's those games, man, where I just think how they'll be what is going on here? By the way, they've got to go to Everton, which feels like no battle or laughs right now, does it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We just went there, and that feels like no battle. David Moyes just really turned them around, and they're playing well. So that doesn't feel like a laugh. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think you picked it up too because they weren't at home this weekend. I think it would have been much different because think about being one of them in the stands.
This is my point.
And it's 0-0 at 60
on the
80th. With a relegation battling team, and they take on their striker and replace him with a midfielder.
Mate, this is what I'm saying. That decision is a completely different reaction That decision at home, it's a different reaction. And this is what I'm saying. They got bang lucky that it was away from home that he did that, and it's worked out. But the trust might be there if the goal, though, in the crowd. That might do it. If he does it again, you'll go, well, it worked last week, it might work this week. And I think if it's 0-0 on 60, 65, I think the crowd will be, honestly, mate, it'll be, you might start feeling.
I think West Ham gets a goal in that game. I don't think it's 0-0. West Ham does get something.
I don't want them to take the lead. I don't want them to take the lead. In a weird way,
Definitely not early.
Yeah, exactly. If West Ham score in the first 10, I think, Arsenal come in. But I think if it's 0-0, mate, and West Ham score, mate, and like on the 60, you'd be like, oh my God, like their crowd. Yeah. Gordo says, because they're so on edge, because of like they've been so close, and we've been there, by the way.
Yeah.
The only way that we won the league was winning 26 out of the first 27. It's the only way that we won the league off this City side. But this side's different. Liverpool have such a commanding lead. I think they'll, they know, by the way, as well, if they do drop points, Liverpool can just go to City and take the draw on 70 and shake hands and go, City, you don't want to lose this game. Yeah. We don't have to win this game. Yeah. Shall we just shake hands here?
You guys
what? I could do with a handshake.
Be humble and get out of there.
I mean, Erling Haaland will be scoring goals for Liverpool to make sure Gabriel doesn't win the league. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
And then that's 4 points against City in the year. You can handle that.
Always good. If you take 4 off City, 4 off United, 4 off Everton, always good with me.
So let's finish up with some predictions for Sunday over here. Gordo, start with you.
6-1 Liverpool.
That's what I figured.
I think that's gonna be, it's gonna be a battle. I wouldn't be surprised if it's tied. I would say a very nervy 3-2.
2-0 Liverpool. Professional. I just think I don't know if Haaland's fit. That's one thing. Doesn't play against Madrid.
Yeah,
I think that was Rudiger though.
Yeah, because of Rudiger, of course. As Jamie Carragher said, was it Rudigeritis?
Yes, yeah.
Brilliant. I don't know if Haaland's fit, so I will say 2-0. I just think if Marmoush plays right wing and Haaland's up front, it could be a different conversation. But if Marmoush is up front on his own and Haaland doesn't play, I think Liverpool win quite comfortably. I just think our subs win the game. I just think we have enough off the bench where you can bring on your Jota, or if the manager fancies it, you can bring them on and get them going.
In case I'll take more off. But yeah, I'll go with a 2-1. I'll be honest with you, and that's like I'm being optimistic for being optimistic's sake, kind of a thing. I feel like this is going to be a draw, but let's go with a 2-1. Just for shits and giggles here. Sergi is going with the 2-2. I don't think Haaland is going to start. Haaland could be coming.
So that means if there's Marmoush on the wing, he'll do Phil Foden. Sorry, Marmoush up front, he'll do Phil Foden on the right wing, which I don't mind that. I think if Marmoush plays up front on his own, I think Liverpool win the game. I think if Marmoush is on the wing, it could causes more problems.
I think this is the game actually that suits Gravenberch, and if he has a solid game, if we take care of that midfield, I think we win this game. And there are so many issues in that back line.
That's why I'd play the
if
big.
you control the midfield, you're gonna get goals.
Exactly, and I think this is that midfield. Is it Nico Gonzalez? I think this is his biggest game. I know he played against Madrid, but they just got run all over against Madrid, which can happen. This is his biggest Premier League game by a mile, and I think if Liverpool can play well, it'll be interesting to see how he reacts. In those games, a big high-intensity game, and he's like, now these lads are running everywhere. See what I mean? It'd be interesting to see how he reacts to that as well. So, big game. It is a big game for Gravenberch. Massive game.
I think so. I mean, we're going to rely on that midfield. I mean, the default settings have to pay off. But we'll be here to talk about, I don't know, we'll see if there's a surprise in the lineup Sunday morning. And stay tuned in. Might have to do a Goal Rush watch along on Saturday morning as well. But have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy your Saturday, the West Ham win, all that good stuff. And we'll see you guys on Sunday. Take care.